Welcome back to another episode of Ideas to Human Better. I am your host, Eva Payne. Today, I'm super excited to bring you a health and wellness entrepreneur. His name is Jeff Wolfson. I met him through a friend and have just had the honor and privilege of watching his journey with his own self-care, his own self-love, the pressures of life, of being an entrepreneur, being a man today, and kind of what that means as we move into our 40s and 50s and 60s as human beings. And how do we find that love? How do we relieve that pressure? How do we go through something like the grief of a family member? There's just a lot, the wealth of knowledge that he has to share with us today around health and wellness. And so it's my honor and privilege to bring to the stage Jeff Wolfson. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Eva. So nice to see you. I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for taking the time to come
Absolutely.
on and share your journey, share your wisdom, the things that you've learning and that you're continuing to learn in this process of being a better human. How do we do it? And in particular, men. I interview a lot of women, talk to them about their journeys, but like, how do men move forward in today's age? A lot of people are waking up, trying to look at this self-care industry and this self-help, and it's been around for a long time. I'm curious for you in particular, maybe we can just start off with like, why now? You've had a lot of different professions in your life and worn a lot of hats. Why are you interested in this space in particular? And then what has been the journey for you? We'll kind of go into that, into how, and maybe those two things are connected. So
Sure. How many
anything
hours do
you
we
say about
have?
yourself, introducing yourself, and why now this space?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could go all the way back to being a kid, but I will say that as a young man and a young businessman, I always would try to improve myself, and I always would walk into the fire as a younger person. I would really try hard to force myself to change. When I was in college, I was a business major, and I was bored, and I wanted something exciting. And I said, "Gee, if I could talk to people, then." I think I could do a lot of things. So I changed my major to communications. Before I knew it, I was in theater and I was on stage. I was speaking in front of people, really out of my comfort zone. And then as time went on, I got into sales and I would listen to cassette tapes. Does anybody know what those are? I'm kind of dating myself right now, but I would listen to cassette tapes on self improvement, people like Brian Tracy, et cetera. And then as time went on, I really got into life. I had a family and kids. I had several entrepreneurial ventures that, quite frankly, they failed. And that failure and that the scariness of failure, and that the commitment that I had to a family, and having all of that pressure to continue to show up every day for my family while not realizing my entrepreneurial dreams to their full capacity really began to weigh on me. And I stopped really trying to improve. I was just trying to just get by. And every day was became a struggle. And I'll tell you, from the outside looking in, there's probably not one person on the planet that would have thought that any of that was going on inside of me. I showed up every day, I had a big smile on my face, I had a lot of confidence, and a lot of success from a lot of people's opinions. They would look at the beautiful house on the hill I had, and in a beautiful neighborhood, and the beautiful family, and the really cool job with the big vice president of sales title, and think, gee, that guy has it all. But meanwhile, inside, I was grinding every day, struggling, not feeling worthy. So there was a lot of things that were going on inside of me that kind of led me up to a point probably 6, 7 years ago when I said, geez, I have to do something about this. It was my health was failing, and mentally I wasn't really there. But I decided to really go after my health first. And happy to get into that if you'd like. I know I'm kind of dominating the conversation, so
No,
you just
please. It's all about you. It's all about you. Dominate away.
uh,
Um, yeah,
sure.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about, I'm sure there's a lot of men out there that can probably really relate to where you were at and maybe where they're at right now. Can you first, before we go into what some of the the changes that you started to make, maybe like one or two or three key signs. Like, what would you tell someone? How do we become self-aware that like things aren't going so well? I mean, I think maybe that's self-explanatory, but also maybe not. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you started to notice in your life that made you really say, okay, I've got to do something about this?
Oh boy, great question. Geez, everything from physical health or lack thereof of physical health. I was heavy. I was drinking more alcohol. I was eating a lot of bad foods, and really just pretty much probably a low grade depression, and just not happy and not satisfied. And I tell you what, the big thing is, and I think I've experienced it and a lot of guys do, you feel trapped. You feel trapped. You feel like you can't go to anybody and talk to anybody. And really, that's a challenge that men have in general, probably around the world, but certainly in American society, is we don't really have anybody to talk to about our feelings, because we're kind of conditioned to think that's weakness, and to talk about our feelings is weakness. So you shove everything down.
Mhm.
And I certainly would shove things away and down. And only until recently did I realize a lot of the traumas and things that maybe I'd been through as a kid actually were manifesting themselves later in life as an adult, and that I needed to do something about it. And it became an issue where I lost a couple jobs, and all of a sudden I was losing my confidence. And again, a lot of people would never think that I lacked any self confidence. In fact, I might have been accused of having too much from time to time. But I really, inside, I was not feeling good. I was not feeling happy. I was not feeling satisfied, and there was really nothing that could satisfy me. There was really no real joy, no real freedom, and I just absolutely felt trapped.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for being
Yeah,
just vulnerable. How about that? Like,
yeah,
just vulnerability, the ability just to be honest and say how you're feeling and where you're at, and that things aren't good, and that you're going to these coping mechanisms that were not healthy, for whether it's for your physical body, right? Or mentally, the things you were saying, maybe even spiritually, just how you were showing up in the world and the energy that you were giving off to the people around you. And so, way to go. Way to just like be able to acknowledge that. Cause I think that is step one for a lot of people out there, is just to say, okay, this doesn't feel in alignment. Like, I talk a lot about living in flow. There's a misalignment there. There's no flow there in how things are transpiring. So I appreciate you sharing that.
absolutely.
Let's go to now what? Okay, so someone's out there right now. They're in a similar position. They've lived a bunch of life, and they've seen the contrast when things are working and when things are not. Maybe they're going to these negative coping skills. What can be done? Like, what do they do out there? What are some of the things that you brought into your life that really helped you to start to transform back to this healthier place, this journey of health?
Yeah. I'll start off with the physical part, because I think for a lot of guys, including me, that was the easy part, because it didn't take a lot of feelings, so to speak. We didn't have to express our feelings or our emotions or show vulnerability necessarily. And really, probably going back 6 or 7 years, I was looking at investing in the cannabis space from a medicinal standpoint. And I was at that point in life, I was aching in every joint of my body. I was about probably 50 pounds heavier than I am now, maybe even 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I ached with every movement I made. Getting in and out of the car, climbing up and down the staircase, opening a bottle of water. Believe it or not, I could barely open a bottle of water. I had no strength left in my fingertips.
Mm,
And along that same time frame, I was looking at investing in the cannabis space. And never in a million years did I really expect or know what was about to happen next regarding cannabis. And so I started looking into CBD,
mhm,
and that's the business I was going to invest in. I said, gee, if I'm going to invest in this business, I better at least try this stuff. And so did my research. I found a great product, and I talked to the owner of the company, the inventor of the formula, and he gave me the confidence to go ahead and try it. So I started taking CBD, And in the meantime, I had a rheumatology appointment scheduled with a doctor, rheumatology professional, rheumatologist, and I started taking the CBD about 3, 4 weeks before my appointment. And it was about a week before my appointment, I found myself climbing the staircase, but instead of just lumbering up the staircase, I kind of jogged up the staircase, and then I got to the top of the staircase, and I said, "Did I just do that?" I felt like a little kid. I was full of energy, good mood. I had no pain, and I realized I just had no pain climbing the steps. So I went down the steps, but instead of just walking down the steps like usual, it was like pitter patter, like a little kid, you know? And I was like, wow, I just ran down the steps. I mean, it sounds so basic, right? But I ran down the steps and I got to the bottom of the steps and I was like, I wonder if that's that CBD that's working. I ran to the refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of water, and I went ping with the lid and popped this lid off the bottle of water. And I was like, wow, I just opened a bottle of water with my fingertip. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the little things like that, when you are in a lot of chronic pain, and just not even able to move, like that's yeah, something as simple as CBD that can really help bring that joint health back and lower the inflammation and all the benefits of that. It's like it's not just, oh, go get out and run, go join the gym or whatever. But heck, if you can, sure, But I guarantee, yeah, physical health for me. Anytime I start exercising, I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain lights up. I'm able to be more creative. Anytime I'm in that slumpy, that place of like, woe is
Yeah,
me, what's next? I
yeah,
always look to see, am I exercising? Chances are no. Chances are I've let that go. So that's always my step one, too. So I love that you said that. Like, look at your physical health. What are you doing to take care of the vessel? For the mind to work right and the spirit to be in alignment, the vessel has to be in as best shape as it can be, even if that's baby steps, right? Whatever those are for yourself.
yeah, absolutely. And, and then as time went on, okay, I said, okay, good. I feel good now. Uh, I'm feeling younger, 20 years younger, and then I started dabbling in the space. I joined with a group of physicians, and now I'm an investor in the Physicians Cannabinoid Council, and it's a group of physicians really focused on education of and the benefits of cannabis and all the good and even some of the side effects that go along with it. We're an arbiter of truth at the Physicians Cannabinoid Council, and we try to spread the word there. So that's just one thing I'm working on, but frankly, it just wasn't enough. Okay. It didn't really solve all of my issues. I wish it was an elixir and a magic pill. And I think a lot of us really were conditioned to think that, oh, if we just take this and we just pop this pill,
Yep.
that we're going to feel better. And, I was still down. I still wasn't myself. I still wasn't 100%. And I said to myself, I am not going on any kind of antidepressant or any kind of meds that are going to mess me up in other ways. I had done my homework and I was like, I'm doing this naturally. And I'm a little bit stubborn for anybody that knows me that's watching this, say, oh, yeah. But I'm just like, no, I'm not going to take more medication. It's going to be all natural. And then I started really researching foods and inflammation and foods that cause inflammation. Before I knew it, I had been starting to do fasting and intermittent keto fasting, and then I did extended fasting. I've done 5-day fast, 6-day fast was nothing but water and a little bit of coffee. And boy, I felt really different and better. And I've done toxin purges, and I need to do more of that. I've I've cut out alcohol completely, and I've dabbled with no alcohol, and then I've had the feeling of having alcohol again. And it's you realize how bad it really is for you. And man, I love pizza and I love pasta, and I still dabble in that, but I really try to keep that to a minimum. And now I'm much more aware of the foods that I'm putting in my body. And all over the news now, you're hearing about foods and the toxins in our foods, and it's something that we need to really seriously look at. So I
Yeah.
try to eat organic. I started ice plunging, and it's like every few months I try something new. I'm learning all about new therapies, red light therapies. I've done hyperbaric chambers, and then I did the psilocybin journey with you, which was awesome. And I'm sure we'll get into that at
Yeah.
some point as well. But I am always trying to challenge myself with something new, something natural. I mean, God put these things on the planet for a reason. And I used to laugh at people that hug trees, for instance. And we're on our journey, and here I am hugging a tree in Oregon. It's like, whoa, what just happened to me? But guess what? The vibration of the earth, the frequencies of the earth, they really, really do matter. And I'm learning all about that. So every day, every week, every month is another step along this journey of self improvement. And I haven't quite licked it all 100%, but I'm getting there, and I'm making progress. And I really hope that that through podcasts like this and me showing up as a person that's been there and done it, and hey, I get it, guys, I get it. I get the fact that of all of our struggles, and I get the fact that you like pizza. Just like I do, and you like some beer just like I do, but everything in moderation. And guess what? There's hope. There's definitely hope if we are disciplined and we actually show up and do the work. So
Yeah. That holistic self-care. It's really this awakening to that, right? Like, how do we bring ourselves back to a baseline that's legit? Like, what does a human being look like and operate from at a real baseline? And then from there, what can we create? We've just been living in like this dark ages and just putting crap in, and everything that is holistic was so wooed and just given a bad name. We were very just modern medicine and pharmaceuticals and all of that. And that just, we can see it. It works for some, but for a lot, it really doesn't. And the fact that the placebo effect even works, the fact that you can take a sugar pill or whatever they give you and believe your way into health just talks about the power of the human vessel, the magnificent design of our bodies. And to your point, the earthing, the grounding, the really coming back in alignment with nature. We see ourselves as separate from nature, like we need to go to nature, and but we are nature. We are it. And so I just love that people are figuring this out and coming back around, coming home to ourselves. It's really powerful. I would love to talk to you about now the emotional care. Okay, so you're doing all this physical stuff, you're doing all this research, all the things that you can do for your body, what you're putting in, how you're spending your time with your body, where you're doing it. How did you start to tackle and look at the emotional side of things, the vulnerability side of things, looking at the shame and the guilt and the choices, the fears, the anger, the grief, just all the things that weigh us down emotionally? What steps have you taken to help yourself in those areas?
well, it's a great question. And I think what where the realization came in that I needed more was when I'm doing all these other things. I'm plunging in ice baths, right? I'm in 36-degree water at 4:30 in the morning. And I'm coming out of that water feeling like amazing and feeling like I can conquer the world. But by the end of the day, I'm just going through the motions again
Mhm.
and not really feeling any relief, full of anxiety, full of feelings like I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve this big house or this great car and this beautiful family. And it was just beyond me why anybody in my position wouldn't be more grateful. And I really wasn't feeling the gratitude. And I started to read and listen to some books, on Audible and things like that. And I started to dive a little deeper, utilizing AI and ChatGPT. And I started to actually prompt ChatGPT about the challenges I was facing. And I would list them out, six, eight, 10 of them. The things that were holding me back, procrastinating, some self sabotage, not feeling worthy,
Mhm.
things like that. And I began to go a little deeper into myself, and the light bulb kind of went off, like about me as a kid and who I was, and how my parents were, and I had great parents. My mom's passed away. My mom passed away this past year, but my dad's still around, and they were great parents, and they did the best with what they knew. And then I started learning about trauma and how we carry it 7 generations deep, and that just is mind-boggling that's even a thing, right? Like, how is that even possible? But it's true, and you can you know it, and a lot of other people know it, that we harbor this trauma, and it goes into our DNA. And it didn't even matter how our parents were with us. It might have been their parents, 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 right? I can go on and on and on about, and we don't even know what those people might have been through, and that goes into our DNA. So all of a sudden now we've got that coupled with our fast-paced lives, coupled with the dopamine addiction that we all suffer from just social media alone and our cell phones and the bright shiny objects and the things that get us charged up. And I can't tell you how many times I would start a task and then be off chasing squirrels or bright lights and be
Yeah.
like, all of a sudden, like, what the heck happened? I can't focus. And really, that lack of being able to focus, it was making me go crazy, because I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'd go to the doctor and he'd be like, I'd be like, do I have ADD? Do I need some? He's, nah, you're just stressed. You're getting older. And which was, I'm glad that he didn't put me on a prescription. That's
Yeah.
great, but it really wasn't fixing me. And then I started doing things like looking at neurolinguistic programming, and I started learning about the subconscious mind. And we are what we tell ourselves we are. We are who we say we are. And I've always had this really self-deprecating sense of humor. Um, but I learned, and I think I had the self-deprecating sense of humor because I always wanted to put people at ease around me,
Mhm.
and I wanted them to like me, and I had this thing of wanting to be liked and all this stuff. Um, so I would put people at ease by making fun of myself. Well, I learned that your subconscious doesn't know that you're making fun of yourself. It just hears the words, and basically you're cutting yourself down. And then by making a joke about yourself, it's embedded in your subconscious, and now that's who you are. So all the things we tell ourselves, not just self-deprecation, but I'm not good enough. I can't do it. Oh, I can't do that. Or I'm not worthy. It
Yeah.
just sinks into our heads, and it really causes a lot of issues. And it might be, really, when you really want to break it down, it might be the fundamental challenge that we face, not just men, but humans, is
Yeah.
the self-talk, whether it's positive or negative. That right there is really, really important. And it's hard to break out of because we're so conditioned. And I can't remember who I was watching. It might have been, I don't know if it was Joe Dispenza. I can't recall who it was, but they were talking about when we're young and we go to the store with our parents, and we're maybe 3, 4, 5 years old, and we want to grab everything off the shelves, right? We're like, ooh, candy bar, ooh, this, ooh, that. And we're constantly told, no, no, no. You can't have that. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't be that. Don't do that. That's risky. Or don't do that behavior. And all of a sudden we're conditioned, no, no. But when we have the childlike wonderment of like the world is our oyster, we can have whatever we want if we just go get it. I mean, that's beautiful there. And but we've been conditioned over years and years to believe we have to do this, we have to have a W-2 job, we have to go do this, we have to be a certain way, and we can't have this and we can't have that. That's why, pretty much the wealth in this world is generated by 1-2%, the major wealth, while everybody else, works in the system for the 1 or 2% of the world, because they get it, they understand it, and a lot of people don't, unfortunately. So yeah, it's fascinating, that's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's bring in psilocybin. What brought you to that doorstep? So, what brought you to finally step towards something that, there is still a lot of stigma around, and there's a lot of hope and possibilities as well. But, and I mean, I've seen, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people benefit from it. So I know I believe in it. But for you, what was it in particular? You're doing this work, you're doing this NLP work, you're listening to these speakers that are starting to talk a lot about mindset and working on your own mindset. You're tackling all the health stuff for the body. Why then psilocybin?
Well, basically, I just felt stuck, and I knew I needed to shake things up. And I had done my research, as I always do, on whatever I'm putting in my body.
Hmm?
And I had looked at things like ayahuasca and psilocybin and ketamine, and looked at side effects and looked at what people go through during their journeys when they're utilizing these products. And what will insurance pay for? What won't it pay for? And where do I need to go to do it? And how much is it? And all of that. So there's all these things that I was thinking about. And then, what is it? What's it going to do to me? And I tried psilocybin in college. I had one experience where it was a lot of fun and a lot of laughs, and it was
Mhm.
more in a recreational. It was recreational. But the second time I tried it, I literally thought I saw the devil. And that scared me so bad that I never wanted to reintroduce anything psychedelic into my brain because I was afraid of losing control.
Mhm.
But I'd done my homework and done my research. And then when I was finally at the point where I was really seriously thinking about it, you and I got on a call, and you were very helpful and you answered all my questions. And I said, I think I'm going to do this, but I don't want to just do it on a one day. I want to do it with a group of like-minded people. I want to do it in a safe environment, and I think this is something that can actually help me take it to another level. And much like CBD, I really had no idea what exactly was going to happen. And as you always say, what's going to come up. And I had no idea what was going to come up on my journey. And it was absolutely fascinating what did come up and where I really was in life and the kind of things that, like you say, the medicine gives you what you need, basically. And it was absolutely incredible, incredible, an incredible experience. And I want to do it again. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Tell me, give me one highlight from your journey or one, I didn't think it was gonna be like that. I was expecting this and got this instead.
Yeah. Um, I didn't realize there's a few things that happened for me. One, I was able to reconnect with my mother, and I had a good relationship with my mother, but my mother struggled with addictions, and it was really hard to see her struggle these later years in life because as a young person and all the years growing up, she never had any challenges that we could see, and she was the life of the party, and everybody loved her, and she was always interested in what everybody else was doing in life. And the last 10, 15 years, it was really tough watching her struggle, and really tough, really, really hard not being able to do anything about it because I'm a fixer. But I'm 3,000 miles away. I'm in California, and they're in Ohio, and it didn't matter what I did, I couldn't fix it, and that was sitting inside of me deeply. And then I wasn't showing up as the kind of person that I wanted to show up as, and a few things happened during the journey where actually I was able to reconnect with my mom in a spiritual world, and that was really amazing. I felt that her and I were able to connect in some way that we hadn't connected in a long time, maybe since I was a kid or a baby. And so her and I had a special bond there that day. So that was a surprise. And I think the other thing that came up was that uh, I needed to love myself and focus on self love, and that I had lost that. And I didn't know that I didn't love myself until that day. And the gals that were in that journey with me, and in particular, yeah, during the sound bath part of it, really brought that out of me. And I was trying to kind of grunt through and fight through the journey, like in a masculine sense, because that's all I really knew. And then this is probably the third major thing, is that I was able to actually find some femininity and some feminine balance. And we have masculine, all of us have masculine and feminine in us, women and men both. And I was way out of balance on the masculine side. And by getting in touch with my feminine side, between the motherly love and the maternal instincts, and the motherly instincts of the women that were helping me through the journey, to actually being able to focus on saying to myself, gee, Jeff, you are enough, you're good enough, and it's okay to love yourself. And having that epiphany and that realization that I wasn't, and that I needed to, and that actually it's okay to just chill out and bring some femininity back into to your life and bring some balance. So that's been something that's been very eye-opening, and really incredible, and something I constantly think about now, and that I'm much more balanced. This was when we do this early April, and now we're in August, so much more balanced than I was just several months ago. So that was pretty amazing, and yeah, we can get into the story about my mom too, which is incredible post journey if you'd like, as well. I
Yeah,
know
well,
it's
we'll
pretty
definitely
heavy.
go there. I definitely wanna know, like, where you're at now and how months later things have transpired. Can you just for anyone listening who people don't know what it's like to be on a journey. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's, like you said earlier, your one journey where you thought you saw the devil or whatever. I think if you could describe for people what it's like to sit with the medicine, um, how would you do that? What would you say?
Hmm.
Curious.
Well, first of all, I'd say don't fight it. If you recall, I was pushing back and fighting it hard, and we needed to give me a lot of milligrams to get me to the point where I was able to relax. But just relax and trust, number one. And I think for different people, it shows up a little differently. Some people really see a lot of vibrant colors and all that. But for me, it took me into another realm where, as I laid and sat with the medicine, and I was in the bed, and I was listening to some incredible music. Um, it it put me really into somewhat of a trance, I'd say, where I actually felt like I was kind of out of body,
Mhm.
and I was able to kind of float above myself and really step into another world, and I was actually experiencing this thing with my mom during the journey where she was 3,000 miles away, but I actually felt like I was holding her and stroking her back and telling her that it's going to be okay. And in the meantime, I was telling myself that things are going to be okay. And there was a lot of tears. I won't lie. I mean, there was a lot of tears, but there was a lot of joy, and there was laughter, and there was some sadness. But the sadness was more about probably just kind of coming to terms with the things that had been holding me back, and reconnecting with my mom and reconnecting with myself. And it's I would say, to just wrap it up, it's really not it's not scary. Um, Going into it, you might be a little bit nervous, but I would say don't fight it, and just let the day take its course when you're on your journey, and just let the medicine do its work, and you just relax and let your mind go where it needs to go, and the medicine will give you what you need. And it really, I didn't really understand that going into it, but I totally get it looking back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a very motherly, loving, nurturing energy. So even the hard things that come up are presented in a way that you can hold. People think they're going to like re-experience trauma or have to go and face really scary, hard things, not be in control, and it's just not like that. For the most part. I mean, the most part, you know who you are, you know where you're at. You could have a conversation with your facilitators. I would venture to say that your experience when you were younger that wasn't so great. Maybe you weren't in the best set and setting. You didn't have the support. You weren't ready to go in. And, your fear got the best of you. You didn't feel like you could really just be open and just allow moment by moment for the medicine to unfold in the most successful way. And so, really, to anyone out there, it is really important that you have a guide, that you have someone who is loving and caring next to you that can walk you through or and not walk you through because there's no talking. It's not like therapy. It's more just like here's a tissue, drink some water, using the sound to move energy out, especially when you're holding on to so many of those demons that have been talking to you for so long and telling you that you're not good enough and feeding off of you. It's like literally energetically purging you of negative energy and forces and stuff that I don't know, I'm open to anything, but that's what it feels like. It feels like there is something sometimes around people, especially people who have different addictions, whether it's food addictions or negative self talk addictions or alcohol or sex or any of it. And it's like that stuff um, feeds off of our energy. And the medicine is a cleanser, it's a
Yes.
purifier. It breaks things down, it sends things away. And that process can be um, it can be a lot, right? But you feel so much better afterwards, almost like your CBD, circling back around to that. You start taking that, and all of a sudden you're able to move more, you're more free.
Yep.
So I'd love to go into what now? You've done, I believe, 2 journeys. You did the one at the retreat, and then you went and sat with someone one-on-one and did a second journey somewhere 30 days, which is the therapeutic model. Somewhere, doing a second journey. For everyone, it's a little bit different, but 21, 30, 60 days. For some people, it's a year. Some people don't ever journey again.
Yeah.
But what have you noticed in your life that has shifted
Oh,
since
wow.
utilizing this medicine and whatever other self-care practices that you have then been able to incorporate into your life?
Eva, I'm telling you, I am such a different person 6 months later. Well, first of all, after my first journey, that was on April, was it first or second? I think. Well, on April 9th, my mother's 77th birthday, she had a major heart attack and
Mhm.
ended up going in the hospital. She was on life support for a week. She died a week later. So that was me right after that journey. So I had this real amazing connection with my mother. Then
Yeah.
1 week to the day of the journey, she goes down. Then I fly back to Ohio, and there she is, hooked up to these machines, and it's heartbreaking. And then, she had no brain, she didn't have enough brain function. She lost oxygen, and my 88-year-old dad was giving her CPR and kept her alive.
Mhm.
So at least we got to go back you know, and see her. And yeah, and to experience that, 1 week after the journey, I mean, it was wild. I mean, no one could have ever written this script, so to speak. It just happened, but I was grateful that I got to at least communicate with her in that other realm
Mhm.
where during the journey, I know her and I were connected, and it gave me that opportunity to say goodbye, even though I didn't know I was saying goodbye at that point. It gave
Yeah.
me a chance to really have peace, be at peace with her, and all of that. And then since then, I learned a lot about the balance that I needed to have, and that it's not all about as a guy. It's not all about just gritting through it and just pushing through it. And certainly that's part of life, and that's part of who we are as men. And but I also realized that it's okay. We have to take on the hard things. We have to walk through fire,
Mhm.
and that's one of the reasons. I probably didn't mention it earlier, but it's one of the things that drove me to the journey. It's like I need to walk through fire. I need to be a better man, and I need to challenge myself with things that are out of my comfort zone. And when you do that, you're going to be better off for it. And then as time went on, I started realizing, gosh, Jeff, you are enough. It's okay to love yourself. You have a lot to offer the world. And then I began to take some more personality tests and the saboteur tests and the
Mhm.
saboteur test, where I realized my number one self sabotage was avoidance. And I had been avoiding tough conversations for years with people. Well, that was after my second journey. I realized that I was an avoider, and then I stopped avoiding. And I'm not saying that it doesn't come up to me and it doesn't still happen, because I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to hurt feelings and things like that. But I avoided tough conversations sometimes as a boss, and definitely as a spouse and as a parent, and just thinking they would take care of themselves. And oftentimes they did, and oftentimes it did work out. But sometimes you need to have those tough conversations, not with just everybody around you, but with yourself. So then
Yeah.
I began to say, okay, stop avoiding. And and then I knew I had been avoiding letting God into my life. And that's I've joined a church, and I go every week, and it's a great church called Oceans Church. And it's really been an amazing experience. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and nothing against the Catholic Church, but it just wasn't doing it for me. But this Christian church is really a way for me to kind of take my life to another level and let God in. And and I know that's maybe not for everybody, but for me, it's where I am and what I need, and it's
Yeah.
something I always knew I needed that I always resisted. So this gave me the opportunity to stop resisting and stop avoiding. So it's been it's been quite an interesting 5 or 6 months this year, and a lot has happened. But I've learned about gratitude and mindset and NLP and neuro linguistic programming and on and on and on. And I'm ready for another journey. By the way, I want to do another one. I just absolutely
I
love it.
love it. Well, because you gotta think about what it's doing, right? I mean, it's lighting up your brain. It's letting you be your own guru. You are connecting with that mystical, beautiful side of things, and it just creates these it reopens a critical learning patterns in your brain, this that you go back to that childlike mind. And so you are able to pick up a language, an instrument, a mindset, a healthy habit, you that quiets that ruminating voice down. And so there's space for new things to come in. It's just truly, it's incredible. You can't take too much. You're not going to become addicted. You do want to wait in between. You kind of want to give yourself a little bit of time in between each of those journeys. And it just really sounds like you've taken care of yourself physically. You worked on the mental stuff. You did as much as you could. And when you needed to dive into the spiritual stuff, that psilocybin was there. That helped with some of the mental stuff that you needed to battle, but then also really opened this door, this spiritual side, this mystical side, this connection to God, the God within, the God out here, creating that bridge, that connection. It sounds like you really are tackling each of those areas in your life and finding that balance with all of it. I think it's really, really lovely. If you think about, who you were even a year ago and who you are now and the growth that has happened, I'm sure you've just got to be thinking like, who would have ever thought?
Yeah, I say oftentimes, what just happened?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to just as a final wrap up, what would you leave someone out there who might be in the position that you were a year ago or 5 years ago? Someone who is they know things aren't right. Maybe they can't put their finger on even what that is. They're choosing these negative coping skills, because it's easy. It's easy to drink. It's easy to whatever, smoke weed all day. It's easy to sit around and eat popcorn or McDonald's or pizza, as you were saying, drink soda, go on pharmaceutical medications that just numb everything out for a lot of people. What what would you say to those individuals who may have made it this far in this podcast?
Yeah. Well, one, there's hope, and also realize that we are all addicted in a way to the dopamine rush, to whether it's a negative, as you were illustrating some negatives, whether it's submersing ourselves in food or alcohol or weed or, believe it or not, screens, phones,
Mhm.
Facebook, Instagram,
Yep.
TikTok. All these things give us a dopamine boost, and it ends up showing up in a negative way in other parts of our lives, where all of a sudden, we get that rush from scrolling through and seeing how many people liked our stories and looking at other people's lives and saying, geez, I wish I had this and I wish I had that, to just submersing ourselves in watching television all day
Mhm.
or eating, like I had said, or all the other things, whether it's, sex or porn. You can go on and on about all the things, the unhealthy addictions that we as humans are faced with. And uh, it's not just men. This is everybody. And God bless our children. Like they've been through hell with COVID and being masked up and having to learn remotely. But kids are 2 years behind or 3 years behind now where they should be because of all of that. And then you look at all the foods and you can go on and on. But let me say, I guess just to kind of bring it full circle, is like there is hope. Get educated, do your homework, And don't be afraid to make change. It's easier to be stuck. It's more miserable for sure, but it's easier to be stuck. We just have to do something about it and recognize that you're not alone. I'll tell you, you'd be shocked at how many people in this world are affected by everything I just mentioned, and probably more than not. I would say more people than not are affected by one or more
Yeah.
of what I just talked about. So there's hope. Whatever it is, go get it. I mean, if you need to start off with the physical, look into some intermittent fasting, some intermittent keto fasting, cut out the sugar. That's one thing that could help you dramatically. And take it a step further if you want to, try things like CBD that are, non toxic, and they're not going to make you high. And then you get into things like psilocybin that can actually help you rewire your brain. And that's something that we didn't really hit on a little bit ago, but that's why I took the journey. It's why I decided on psilocybin, is because it helps to open your brain to being rewired. And I mean, it's not like you just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're fixed. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but you got to start somewhere. But it helps to kind of jumpstart you. And it's one of the reasons I did it, was to help give me a jumpstart so I could begin to reprogram myself in a positive way, with more self love and more self confidence. So the point is, there's answers, and don't be worried about a stigma. The more you're concerned about a stigma of what people are going to think, the more you're just going to be trapped in your existing life, and the more you're going to stay unhappy and addicted to all these other things that are keeping you unhappy.
Mhm.
So I'll say it to the guys out there: look, bro, there's hope. Don't be afraid. And it takes more guts to go do something about it than it does to sit around and mope around. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And to your point too, just to touch on, I did speak to maybe things that people would easily say, well, those are negative. But, I had a woman at my last retreat, and she gave up alcohol, but then she was addicted to exercise, literally running and triathlons and all that stuff. And so I took a gentleman on a journey who had the dopamine hits from racing cars. And like his whole life, it was always this dopamine from doing these extreme activities and stuff. And so it can look it can be masked and couched in something that seems healthy when in fact too much of anything is maybe not so good. What is your intention, right? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this to escape? Are you doing this because there is that balance? And to your point too, of avoiding things, I have a quote on my mirror right now that is all about that. It's like, step towards the things that you are avoiding, because that is where the joy and the success is on the other side of that which you are avoiding, whether it's a conversation, whether it's taking care of cleaning up your space, your body, your mind, your soul. It's not easy to do the work, but we've have plenty of work for us to do right now. We've created a hot mess out here in ourselves and culturally. And so let us find joy in the work. Let us find joy in this little successes, taking one kind step every day for yourself. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing so openly and being so vulnerable about your story and your life. I think that is another way that we can heal, is just by speaking our truth, by being honest about where we have come from and where we are going. The more we can do that, the more those little demons that were holding on just can't hold on, because there's no shame and guilt anymore. You've just owned your past, and you realize you did the best you could, and so did everyone else around you. You just let go of that, and it frees you up to be really present in the moment, and which then allows you to have that hope for the future and to start creating and manifesting from a really intentional place. So I honor you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing. Any final thoughts? If you're any way people can connect with you, anything else you just want to say to anyone out there before we wrap up this episode?
Sure. Yeah. So you could send me an email. It's jeff.wolfson@tcbwell.com. And that's my investor business, my investment business. Jeff.wolfson at tcbwell.com. And TCB stands for Taking Care of Business. And
Right.
it's a little bit of a tribute to the King. And you can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. And please reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. In fact, I've had people already reach out to me about what it's like to do a journey, and then people have reached out to me about other things too, fasting and all that. And if you're a business owner and you're struggling and you're looking for what's next in life, these are areas that I can help you in. I can help guide you to help you have a fulfilling retirement and help you take the next steps along your journey to find more a self-fulfilling type of life where you feel satisfied every day and grateful. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. And Eva, I really appreciate you and your team. And gosh, the way you show up for people is just inspiring, and it's beautiful. And I'm truly honored to be a friend of yours and um, to be on this podcast. I'm really glad and grateful that you had asked me to be on this, and just super excited about the future. And any way I can help you or our fellow man, I'm wide open. This is who I am. I'm looking to give back, and however that looks, I'm game. I'm in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words. I love what I get to do. I'm all about creating a life that feels in alignment with my soul. And how can I use my gifts and the things that interest me to serve in the world? I think ultimately that's what we're here to do. And for each of us is different. And that's the quest, and that transforms as we move through life. So I appreciate you being on your journey and being so kind and supportive of me on mine as well. It's a constant day by day. What are we doing here? How do we do it better? Hence the podcast Ideas to Human Better. How do we do this better? This cannot be it. I'm not okay with what's going on inside sometimes and also out there. And so how do we do it better? Like legit, no BS. What's it going to take? How do we do it? So thank you for sharing your wisdom today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for
All right,
having me.
hang on. Don't go anywhere. Let me say bye to everyone else. Thank you, everyone, for being here today on another episode of Ideas to Human Better. I am Eva Payne. I'll make sure Jeff's contact information is down below in show notes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing your best, for showing up every day. There is hope. There are answers. The earth has given us everything we need. We have all the answers inside of ourselves if we can just get out of our own way, clear up some space, spend some time in meditation, spend some time on a walk, spend some time with the earth, spend some time putting healthy foods in your body. Maybe you are being called to plant medicine, to fungi, or heck, toads. There's lots of things out there when you start to go down this psychedelic road. And the answers are here. They're right here in front of us. If we just open our hearts and our minds to it, we can show up better for ourselves, which then allow us to show up better for our families, which then also allow us to show up better in our communities. We can change this world, and we don't have to keep living in all of this chaos. We can. It's a choice. We can choose that, but I don't want to anymore. And I hope that you, like me, are willing to do the work and find ways that we can human better. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, be well.